Hey everybody, my name is Will, and today I want to go over with you guys a guide for weapon synergy in New World. So if you've seen any New World but you haven't had a chance to play it, it can be a little confusing trying to understand exactly which weapons players are using, why they're using them together, things like that. And I know this because I got a question on my last video asking me, hey, how do you feel about me combining the life staff with the musket? And I went into a little bit of detail, explained to them the differences, how they affect each other, pros and cons, things like that. And I was like, you know what, this would make a really good video. I should probably make a video for all the people who haven't had a chance to play New World to understand their different options and the ways they can combine them to still be efficient and effective so that when the game launches, they can kind of have a mindset of, hey, I want to use these two weapons because I know they'll scale well with each other, things like that. Because once you've actually played the game, it's kind of obvious how they work because it lays it out for you very simply. But if you have not played the game, you've just been watching it as a third party, I can understand where the confusion comes from. So we're going to take, about 7-8 minutes here. I'm going to run through exactly how it all works, some optimum ways to combine weapons, and some non-effective ways to combine weapons. We're going to start off with explaining each of the different 5 categories here. You have strength, dexterity, intelligence, focus, and constitution. We're going to immediately rule out constitution. So we're going to wipe this one off the slate. Don't worry about it at all. All a constitution does is it affects your health. So if I were to level up this, you see it scaling up my health rate. Well, you can't see it right there. You see my health scaling up by changing these right there. So no need to worry about that. It has no effect on weapon synergy, anything like that. It'll be primarily used for tanking, like if you're going to go, how heavily you're going to go into tanking, giving you some soak, things like that. Completely irrelevant for this video. So we're going to focus on strength, dexterity, intelligence, focus for these particular weapon synergy systems. So right out of the gate, if you hover over this question mark on the right side of the screen, it tells you exactly which weapons are the most effective weapons in each category. So in this section, it's showing that the Warhammer, Great Axe, Sword, and Hatchet, so this weapon, this weapon, this weapon, and this weapon, are primarily scaled off of strength. But you can also scale the spear as a secondary item in the strength category, which I'll explain in a little more depth in a second. Under dexterity, it's going to show the spear, musket, rapier, and bow are going to scale primarily off of dexterity, with the sword and shield and hatchet being good secondaries. Under intelligence, fire staff, ice gauntlet are going to be your 2 primaries, whereas the rapier and the musket are secondaries. Focus is a very unique category. Only the life staff scales off of focus. No other weapons scale as a primary weapon or a secondary weapon in this category. So now that I kind of just quick showed you that setup, I'm going to explain to you the difference between secondary and primary scaling. So you can see here, again, sword, shield, great axe, warhammer, and hatchet scale primarily off of strength. So that tells you when I increase my strength, these weapons will get the most gains. They will be the most effective weapon damage modifiers under these 4 types. But my spear can also scale off of strength. So I'm going to show you by increasing my strength here, how it affects my spear, which I have equipped on the right side. I'm going to dump all these points into strength, and you'll see that my spear is increasing for 281 weapon damage to 365 weapon damage. That's quite a lot. So that gives me quite a big boost in terms of overall power with my spear. You'd see significant gains in game with that change. However, with the spear being a secondary, the gains are not as good as they would be if I scaled on dexterity. So you can see here the spear is primarily dexterity. The easiest way to tell by looking at these images without using the question marks is by the highlight on the weapons. So you can see under strength, you can see the spear here is not lit up. It's actually kind of grayish. That means that it's a secondary weapon in that category, whereas the other 4 weapons here are lit up. They're kind of have a little light to them. Under dexterity, you see the spear is quite bright and it's quite lit up. That means that it's the primary in that weapon. So without having to read these, there's a very easy visual that represents which ones are primary and secondary in each category. So again, by dumping all these points into strength, I get a total weapon damage of 365. On the contrary, if I dump all those same points into dexterity, I see an increase to 389. So that's an additional 24 weapon damage I get from scaling my spear properly in its primary category. So that's how primary versus secondary works. So that leads into kind of the last part of the video. The most efficient way to get the maximum gains is obviously to pick 2 weapons from the same exact category. It's going to give you the absolute maximum weapon damage for those weapons. So for example, again, my spear, my musket. But it is totally okay and completely fine to pick a primary from one category and a secondary from another. So I can scale my musket with a hatchet instead, because I will still see pretty good gains. Not only am I able to do that efficiently, but it gives me more versatility. So if I were to only pick the spear and the musket, which I am scaling, that's how I built my character, I will get maximum gains, but that leaves me with only the option of 4 different weapons: spear, musket, rapier, and bow, to get absolute maximum weapon damage. But if I include either the sword and shield or the hatchet, I will still get really good gains, but I'm literally getting 50% more options in terms of how I can build my character. Same thing applies in the intelligence category. So Fire Staff and Ice Gauntlet are the only 2 items that scale off intelligence as a primary ability. They have no scaling from any other category, so you cannot increase the power of either of these weapons from focus or dexterity. It's just how it works. So you're very limited under intelligence to one of these 2 or both of these to see any type of performance. So you do have access to both the rapier and the musket in this category. So instead of only having 2 weapons I can scale, I now have 4 weapons. I get double the options, even though it's not as effective as scaling both of these weapons together. Lastly, you have the Life Staff. Very unique weapon. It only scales off itself. No other weapons scale in this category. This weapon does not scale in any other categories. So as a healer, you're basically confined to putting all your points into focus if you want to be a super effective healer. In that regard, it kind of allows you to pick any other weapon as your secondary because none of them are going to be efficient in that category. Although that is definitely true, you will see some gains when it comes to these 2 magical weapons, Ice Gauntlet and Fire Staff. Because by leveling focus, you're going to see increases in magic and magic regeneration. So your max amount of mana and your magic regeneration will be affected by focus. So even though you'll get no power gains, you will have additional mana and more mana regen using either the Ice Gauntlet or the Fire Staff. So even though they don't directly scale, they do help each other still. So that's really it. That's the whole video. That's kind of a rundown of the 5 different attributes, the 4 that actually affect your combat, and how they kind of intermingle with each other. So if you want, you can take a screenshot of this, and you can use this for later. I'm sure there's Google images of this that have this exact map, and you can kind of go through and go, okay, I want to combine this one with this one, or this one with that one, or whatever you want to do. And you can tell just by the brightness of the image which ones are primary and secondaries. You don't need access to the arrows here. So if you enjoyed the video, if you have any more questions, comments, if you have any anything you want to add to it, definitely drop a comment down on the video. Like, subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. I'm going to try to play a bit more tonight. I have a couple more video ideas, and I want to capture some of that footage because the beta does end tomorrow, and I won't be able to play tomorrow. So I want to try to get as much as I can for people who have not had a chance to play the game yet. So again, like the video if you like it. Subscribe if you want to see more cool stuff around New World. I play a lot of I'm an MMO player, so I also make a lot of Final Fantasy content. I'll be making Ashes when that comes out as well. So stick around for more of that great stuff, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.